Hello everyone, I'm DonTheCrown, and today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people are messing up on, and that I personally really messed up on when I was playing in the Russian servers, and I probably wasted like 200,000 gold on this mistake. And I keep seeing similar mistakes, and probably will be seeing the same mistake on a lot of other people here very shortly as we move more people into Tier 3. But it's really simple. It is about accessories. Now, this video might make you a little mad because if you're a new player to the game, you might feel like you've been kind of lied to maybe on build guides and other things. But I really think it's not really, it's more that like, it's really hard to kind of explain the importance of things. And some things are a little bit more complicated than others, and that makes it so that people explain things like engravings a whole lot more than they do stats. Stats are pretty straightforward, right? Like you have crit, it does crit. You have swiftness, it makes you faster. Specialization makes you do your class thing better. Pretty straightforward. Engravings require kind of a little bit more tinkering, and that's why people explain engravings so much. But stats are incredibly important to your character, and in fact can be just as empowering to your character as engravings are, as having like perfect engravings would be. And I see a lot of people messing this up. And so right now on my character here, we are chilling at a bunch of crit, and you can see that this is giving me 40% chance to crit. And this is pretty big for my character. Critting all the time feels really good, increases my damage, and I might not have perfect engravings, but by having a lot of crit, that's pretty good. Now you notice I have specialization. This does nothing for mayhem. Ideally, I'd actually be in swiftness, but you know, my necklace is kind of okay. And another thing that's really important with this is if you're a class that's stacking one stat, like if you're a blue gun lancer stacking specialization, or demonic impulse stacking specialization, or a surge deathblade stacking specialization, those stats help out so much because like they fill up your meter faster, they help you do your special effects, they increase your awakening, and it just makes the class feel so much better. And when you're stacking one stat, you're also getting a big benefit from your pet. Now your pet will give you a 10% increase to whatever your score is. So here, for example, this is giving me about 100 crit, 100 crit stat, and that is pretty big. And so if your stats are all over the place, you're not really benefiting from your pet that much, and you can go to anywhere in any town, any major city, and change what the pet effect is. So I recommend doing max HP, and then whatever stat you're stacking. I obviously have a whole bunch of different pets here that have different stats, but we can see here that if I like switch to my swiftness rabbit, that I lose about 4% chance to crit, which is pretty big. And so just having these stats stacked up, I get more crit because I'm stacking more crit, and that is pretty important. Now, the mistake that I made in Russia, and this is kind of embarrassing what happened, but I really wanted to get really good engravings on my Madness Berserker. Now it's called Mayhem in the West. And I really tunnel visioned in on that. And I see a lot of people making this mistake as well. They're 100% tunnel visioned on there. They don't care about stats. They don't care about anything else. And they only care about getting their engravings perfect. This is probably because a lot of people explain engravings in video guides. And so that's what I did. I went out and I got +9 Mayhem, and I got +9 Master's Tenacity as the other engravings that I have on my character sheet. And I ended up spending like 2 weeks of just straight up farming the entire time trying to gear out my character. And at the end of the day, I had a bunch of specialization, which was garbage, and I had endurance. But I had Mayhem 3, I had Grudge 3, I had Cursed Doll 3, and I had 2 in Raid Captain, which is, okay. But I spent a ton of money and my stats were kind of bad, and I was getting like turned down from some groups that actually knew that specialization wasn't good for my spec. And so it felt pretty bad. And then I had a friend who's been playing on the Russian servers a lot longer than I'd be like, oh yeah, I just geared out my Berserker for like 18,000 gold. Like, and it took a day. Like, why don't you just do this? And I was so confused about what he did, but it was pretty simple. He just did +9/+9 Mayhem on his character sheet like this. I have 2 +9/+9s. It leads you to have extra +3, but then you don't have to worry about getting your class engraving on any of your gear. And this works for basically every class where you need a level 3 class engraving. All you need is +9/+9. And the really good part is you don't even need to buy your purple books for your first class, because by hitting 1340, you're going to get 10 pick a purple class engraving. And then in the basic guide, you're going to get another 10 purple class engravings for beating the boss rush in tier 3. And I was able to easily clear this at 1340. Maybe you want to find a group or something like that. But that's going to save you so much money. Because basically everything with Mayhem on it right now is relatively expensive. And then anything that is Mayhem with right stat is insanely expensive. And this is another thing I want to talk about too, is you notice that I'm wearing like purple and blue accessories, but I haven't really invested into these too much. And the reason is because purple and blue accessories are garbage. Absolute garbage. You're going to get so much better accessories once you push up into legendary. They're going to have more engraving points on them, which is pretty important. But you really should not be spending thousands of gold on these accessories because you're going to be replacing them pretty soon. Or at least you should be replacing them once you get up into legendary. And you'll see here that if we look at the market price here for accessories, and we go to tier 3, and we set it to be legendary. And if we just look for crit in general, you'll see that, I can get pretty cheap stuff pretty easily, decently high quality on some of these things. But if I go and I add Mayhem, things get a little pricey pretty quickly, right? Now, don't get me wrong, this ring here is absolutely insane. It's got +3 of 2 good engravings and only a +1 of a negative engraving, and it's 100%. This is nuts. But you can see how much more power an orange piece of accessory can have. It can have 2 additional nodes, which allows you to help finish more engraving points. But in general, you really don't want to be spending any of your money on the purple junk accessories. You want to wait and hold on and just use stuff that's kind of okay. And you can kind of see with my engravings right now, I have a stone that just has Master's Tenacity 7. Aether Predator was just kind of there. It's not necessarily a bad engraving. It's just not very good either. And then most of my other pieces of jewelry just have crit. Maybe some Master's Tenacity on them. And that's basically it. Nothing really ridiculous here. Just no negatives. And we have Mayhem 3. And so I'll eventually be replacing all this stuff. But focusing primarily on the stat that is really, really important is pretty important for my build, because I want to make sure that I am going to be constantly getting that buff from my pet. As you can see here, big crit, and we're not going to be wasting money chasing after Mayhem for a long, long time. Now, will I eventually go out and get myself Mayhem +12? I mean, maybe. It's a pretty expensive world out there right now if you want to buy these books. I actually sold a orange Mayhem book yesterday for 25,000 gold. And when it sold, literally every single Mayhem book on the market that was orange was gone. So somebody just swooped them all up. Now, friendly reminder, these, once you buy them, you cannot trade them with other players. So if you're trying to flip Mayhem books, you're going to have to use them yourself, because you can't trade them after you've bought them from somebody else. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you have not been stacking specialization and you're on a class that should be stacking specialization, try it out. One thing I recommend is if you go to Trixie in here, you can talk to Beatrice and you just go to Training Grounds. You can very easily check out your class, how it would feel with different stats and different engravings. All you have to do is go over here, click the little cogwheel, put in whatever stats you want, and you can just even just click shift to fill it all the way up. And so, yeah, and you click services stats and click go, and then your stats are now set to whatever they were in the service. And you can do the same with engravings. You can go and fill out the book here. So you like Mayhem, Grudge, Cursed Doll, Master's Tenacity. You can have it all on there. Click it over and then go. And now your character has these engravings while they're in this room. And you can summon up all sorts of monsters and stuff for you to go hit with your character, right? And this is just a really great way for you to test out some things. Now, you can't test out gems here, you can't test out cards. I really hope that they would add that eventually. It'd be really cool to actually see what those really ridiculous card sets are all about. But yeah, this is just something everybody should pop into. And if you're especially one of those specialization classes, Go try this out. You'll be incredibly blown away by how much stacking your correct stat is going to help. Like one of my friends is a gun lancer, he got up to 1400 specialization, and he's getting like 200% more damage on all of his basic attacks, and is actually doing a lot of damage now with his class, as opposed to before when he was kind of all over the place with stats, didn't really have a whole ton. Hope this helped you guys out. Let me know in the comments below, and come by the stream. We're probably live right now.